Hello everyone. Today I will provide you with some tips on maintaining housing and steps to take before vacating a unit. In this video, I'll cover ways to maintain permanent housing, ways to address the property owner, understanding your lease agreement, knowing your rights, evictions, and things you need to do before moving out. Good budgeting is crucial in order to maintain housing, save money for the future, and have a safety net just in case something happens. The best way to maintain a healthy budget is by tracking your monthly expenses, like how much you have spent on rent, food, utilities, gas, and any other expenses for the month. Establish a savings before taking on new expenses. It is important to have a savings for the holidays, year-round expenses, car repairs, school clothes, and more. You can also use online budgeting tools like Wells Fargo Budget Watch, Redwood Credit Union, or a savings app like Digit to help you manage your budget. Also, take advantage of online bill pay when available to prevent any late payments. This is the budget sheet you can use to budget your monthly expenses. Use the savings section to set money aside for emergencies, holiday shopping, or other needs. The most important part in maintaining housing is maintaining a good relationship with the property owner. The best way to do this is by being a good tenant. Make sure you are a respectful and courteous neighbor in order to avoid the property manager receiving complaints. Be considerate of your neighbor's property and do not take up someone else's parking spot, especially if they are assigned. Be considerate of neighbors when smoking as well. Make sure they are not exposed to secondhand smoke. Smoking may be prohibited in some units, so pay attention to your lease agreement. Be mindful of your noise level as well. Do not stomp, yell, or bang on walls as your neighbors might not appreciate this. You're responsible for your house guest and their actions, so make sure they respect the property and are considerate to your neighbors as well. Make sure to read your lease carefully and follow the rules. Read and understand your lease agreement. Know and respect the rules and hours of the property amenities like the pool, clubhouse, laundry room, etc. Just like you have to follow the lease agreement, so does the property owner by upholding the conditions and amenities stated in the lease. For example, if the lease states that the unit is equipped with a refrigerator, then it must be in working condition throughout your occupancy. It is your responsibility to review your lease and move-in checklist. Make sure you know when, where, and how to pay your rent. During the initial walkthrough, make sure you ask questions and take pictures. Thoroughly examine everything and immediately report any issues you notice. Make sure you report any issues to avoid being held responsible for any damages that were there before you moved in. When signing your lease, make sure you ask about the acceptable forms of payment. Do they accept payments in cash, a check, or a money order? If you do pay with the money order or cash, make sure to get a receipt. Some house rules to pay attention to include parking, which some apartments designate parking spaces or require a parking permit. Some apartments require a pet deposit or do not allow pets at all, unless it is a service dog or animal. Some properties prohibit smoking on the premises. Some may have noise restrictions. Some units might have visitor and overnight guest policies. In addition, some might have a limit on the number of household members that can be listed on the lease. If your lease is longer than 30 days, your rent cannot be increased during the term of the lease, unless the lease allows rent increases. If you have a month-to-month lease, California law requires at least a 30-day written notice of a rent increase. If the rent increase is less than 10% of the rent, a 30-day written notice is required. If the rent increase is more than 10% of the rent, a 60-day written notice is required. Rent often increases every year when renewing your lease. But if you renew your lease early enough, then the rent might remain the same. The property owner can enter the unit, but they must provide a 24-hour written notice prior to entering. If you live in an apartment complex, you might find a written notice outside your door or in your mailbox. However, they can only enter during normal business hours, and a notice must state the date, approximate time, and the purpose of entry. Property owners might enter the unit to inspect or repair any damages to the unit. There are some exceptions for the property owner to enter a unit as well, which can include emergencies, court orders, abandonment of the unit, mailing notices, etc. For more information, refer to the California Tenants Handbook, which a link can be found at the end of the video. Once you have agreed and signed a lease, you are financially responsible for the term of the lease. If you need to terminate the lease, the landlord must agree to let you off of it. If you're sharing housing with someone else, your roommate must also agree to remove you from the lease. Sometimes you can find someone else to take over your part of the lease to get out of it. If you're on a month-to-month lease, you must provide your landlord with a written 30-day notice of your intent to vacate the unit. For example, if you provide your 30-day notice on June 1st, you are financially responsible until July 1st. An exception to this is if you are on a rental agreement that is less than 30 days, such as a week-to-week, then you must provide a 7-day written notice. For more information on providing proper notices, refer to the California Tenants Handbook. A notice to vacate can be given by a property owner 30 to 60 days before the end of your lease. This also applies for month-to-month leases. A 30-day notice must be provided for a month-to-month lease that have gone for less than a year, and a 60-day notice must be provided for month-to-month leases that have gone on for over a year. There does not have to be a reason for termination, unless it is a case of discrimination or retaliatory behavior, which would be unlawful. For example, being terminated for being pregnant. This would be considered discrimination based on gender and familial status if you're told that this is the reason you were terminated. The property owner cannot serve you with a notice to vacate during the term of your lease unless there is a lease violation. Outside of a notice to vacate at the end of the lease, a property owner can give you a 3-day notice to vacate for any of the following reasons: failure to pay rent, violating the lease, damaging the property, illegal or drug-related activity, smoking on the property, subleasing the unit, violating the pet policy, etc. 3-day notice to quit can be given due to a violation. There are 3 different notices that can be given. The 3-day notice to pay or quit can be given when a rent payment has not been received. In this case, a payment must be made within 3 days of the notice, or the tenant can be required to leave the unit within those 3 days. The 3 days do not count weekends or holidays. For example, if a notice was given on a Friday, you have until Wednesday of the following week to resolve the issue or pay the past due rent. If the notice was received during the weekend, you will have until the following Thursday to resolve the issue. A 3-day notice to perform or quit can be given due to a lease violation. For example, if you have a pet in the unit, a 3-day notice to quit can be given due to a violation. There are 3 different notices that can be given. The 3-day notice to pay or quit can be given when a rent payment has not been received. In this case, a payment must be made within 3 days of the notice, or the tenant can be required to leave the unit within 3 days. The 3 days do not count weekends or holidays. For example, if a notice was given on a Friday, you have until Wednesday of the following week to resolve the issue or pay the past due rent. If the notice was received during the weekend, you will have until the following Thursday to resolve the issue. A 3-day notice to perform or quit can be given due to a lease violation. For example, if you have a pet in the unit when you agreed to the pet policy of no pets on the lease. This situation must be solved within 3 days, or you can be required to leave the unit within 3 days. An incurable notice can be given due to illegal activity. An example is damaging the property or committing violence. You must move out of the premises within the allotted 3 days. For pay or quit notices, the property owner must accept the payments if paid within the 3 days. If you pay after the 3 days, then the property owner can decide to either accept the payment or proceed with the eviction. For perform or quit notices, the property owner can file an eviction if the tenant has failed to correct their lease violation within the 3 days. The best way to respond to an eviction notice is to pay the past due rent or correct the stated violation by the end of the 3rd day to avoid the property owner from pursuing an eviction. Contact your property owner to work something out and come to an agreement so you're allowed to stay. If you cannot come to an agreement, leave by the appropriate date to avoid receiving an unlawful detainer. This means to leave the property before the sheriff makes you leave. So what is an eviction? An eviction, or an unlawful detainer, is a lawsuit that a property owner must file and win before they can evict a tenant that has failed to vacate a unit after being given a notice to vacate. If the property owner wins an unlawful detainer case, a writ of possession is issued, which authorizes the sheriff to serve the tenant with a 5-day notice and forcibly remove the tenant from the property if they refuse to leave after the notice has expired. If you're asked to leave a unit and you do before it goes to court, then this is not an eviction. How can an eviction affect you? An eviction can prevent you from renting at low-income properties, and some property owners will not rent to people with evictions. Evictions can also affect your credit score and prevent approval for a mortgage, credit cards, and loans. Evictions stay on your record for 7 years. If you owe a property owner money, a judgment can be placed against you and stay on your credit report for 10 years. When you have reached the end of your lease, the property owner must return your deposit refund within 21 calendar days of moving out. The property manager must provide you with an itemized list of the amount of money they have deducted and what the deductions were for. If the property owner fails to complete either of these two things, then the property owner must return the entire deposit. Deductions from your security deposits can be made due to damages to the unit, unpaid rent, and to clean the unit, but only to clean it as clean as it was when you moved in. They cannot charge you for standard wear and tear. Always take pictures before moving in or moving out. This can help you remember how the unit looked before moving in. It also provides you with proof just in case you're charged for damage that was already present before you moved in, or that you cleaned the unit before moving out. Make sure to clean the unit before moving out and make sure it looks as close as to how it looked before you moved in. Make sure to remove all of your belongings and do not leave a mess. You want a good reference to use in the future. Some things to remember about your lease is that all the rules must be the same for everyone. Everyone must be allowed to use the pool, gym, and common areas. For example, the pool area cannot only be for residents over the age of 18. There are some exceptions in which the property owner can designate reasonable rules to ensure the safety of residents. For example, residents under the age of 15 must have an adult present in the pool area. There are a lot of rules and exceptions regarding tenant rights. For more information on landlord and tenant rights, refer to the California Tenants Handbook. At the end of the day, the goal is to keep your housing and get your lease renewed. So be respectful to your landlord and respect your lease agreement. Here's some links for more information on housing rights. Thank you for watching.